have a roll call, please? Babcock? Here. Chapman?
Here.
Egbert?
Here.
Khan?
Here.
Morrison? Here. Seifert?
Here.
Surem?
Here. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, the first item on the agenda is the tentative budget, and I'd like to ask Mike to come up and we'll call the meeting to order and have a hearing for the adoption of the tentative budget.
May I have the suggested motion to call the meeting to order, please?
I make a motion to open the public hearing on the adoption of the fiscal year 2016 tentative budget. Second.
Good evening, President Babcock, Superintendent Thompson. As required by law, we have to have a public hearing on our budget for 2015-16. We first presented to the board in June, published the ad in the paper. We've made a few changes to the budget at this point. We increased revenue by about $355,000 due to GSA, which is a GSA increase, which is due to passing of the school aid budget. Estimated proration is supposed to be 92%. Which is up from 89% from prior year. We don't have final budget sheets from ISB yet, Illinois State Board of Ed, which we normally have at this point. So we've based that on an estimate based on what they've told us that the proration is going to be at. So we've increased that by about $355,000. Still some unknowns at this point. Staffing won't be known, obviously, until the start of school. We still have some enrollments, and parents are still enrolling students. In our budget of about 889 CTC positions, we're at about 888 today. Now, obviously, that can change between now and September, and it probably will. So when I come to the board for approval in September, I'm sure that'll change. We also have estimates in there for our program assistants. And those by contract, we don't know those final amounts until October 15, when those are finally set for reading, and actually not until January for some of the kindergarten programs as well. But our estimates are usually pretty close on our PA budget from what we estimate. So still a little bit early. Things are still changing. And I'm sure they'll change between now and September as well. And then we'll, when I come to the board in September for final approval, I'll ask the board to, I'll outline any changes that we have between now and September and ask for your approval next month.
I had a couple of questions, and I'm sorry I didn't send those off earlier, but looking at some of the budget increases in terms of the percentages, I was wondering if you could please explain that. One was the equipment increase. We saw 139.97% increase there. Benefits went up 10.3, supplies 24.65. The other one was tuition going up 12.99 in terms of expenses. I thought some of the tuition we get that from, the parents. So, and then the other one was the salaries for OT and PT went up by 9.56. So those were the sum that jumped out to me. If you would please explain that to me.
On the tuition, so that's the tuition we pay for. Mostly is for some of our special ed students that go to out district programs. I could get a list of exactly what the changes are from last year to this year. That's mostly what that is. On the equipment line item, going from 1.088 to 2.6. Honestly, I'd have to look at that on a line-by-line item, and I'd be happy to prepare that by September. I'll bring that back to the board in September. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you exactly what that is.
Those just jumped out, but
yeah,
those were pretty big numbers in terms of maybe not the numbers itself, but the percentages. Those are pretty big jumps, and the disparity was pretty high.
Yeah, and they're good questions. So I will look into that between
So if
now and September.
If you want, I can send an email, Scott, of the items that I saw the biggest disparity on.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That way you have a record of it. So you have
No problem.
that would be great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mike?
Just one, sorry. On the operation and maintenance fund, I looked at that sheet, and maybe just the way I'm reading it, but on the totals for revenue, the amended budget was 13.2 and the tentative is 13.5, but over on the column it says it's a decrease of 2.83%. Is that?
Oh, that does look accurate. It looks like
And I
about
think-
that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think also the one below it should be a decrease of, not an increase of the
That's actually-
0.6%. I think it's just a matter of the plus and the minuses.
Yeah, I think the-
I did, just for clarification, for
That's
the
a-
rest of my colleague board members.
Yeah, it looks like they're backwards, the signs.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Also,
Thank you.
this is just to try to understand the tentative budget. The line item that says transfers out and sources, it comes right after, I'm looking at that page, tentative budget 2015-16, page 1. The main, kind of the one that comes right after. So there's a line that says transfers out, and then it says sources, and it gives us an additional $754,000. I just kind of understand what that is.
Yeah, so in the 14-15 school year, we made a transfer out of the, out of ed into O&M. So we had to make a transfer out of education to O&M, and then out of O&M to capital projects to fund all the capital projects that we had in 14-15.
So that's just kind of like an internal from one fund to
From
another.
one fund to the
Okay.
next. The sources is for the leasing of the laptop computers. So we actually have to record the revenue source in year one, about $754,000. So it's a source of funds is what we call it. So we're actually like grossing up revenues and expenditures. So in the first year, when we do the lease of the laptops, we have a source of funds for $754,000. Then we also record the expenditure of $754,000.
So it balances out.
So it balances out.
Okay.
And then we also record the first year lease payment as well. So in a kind of way, we're double dipping in the first year a little bit, but that's what the accounting regulations require us to do. So the 754 is balance out,
Okay.
and then we have the first year lease payment, which is about 154,000.
Understood.
It's odd.
Yeah.
That one is odd, it is. We did the laptop lease about 2-3 years ago, we had the same thing.
Any other questions? Opening it up for public comments. We now open this hearing to the comments from members of the public. Is there anyone wishing to speak? And you have a sheet? Len, did you want to speak now, or?
Just about the budget.
This is just about the budget?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to read the rules just very carefully, and then we'll be all set for later in the meeting as well. Please remember that this is not a dialogue between you and the board, and if you have a specific issue which requires a response, Superintendent Thompson will get back to you. Please state your name, address, and identify any group that you represent. Please limit your remarks to no more than 5 minutes, and if someone has previously articulated something with which you agree, please state that you agree. And if there's someone, I know that there was someone else interested in speaking, if you would just get that up to Mrs. Becker, that would be fine. Mr. Green.
Thank you. Hi, Len Green, 1670 Edgewater Lane, Palatine. Just what I'm really interested in at this stage in understanding regarding the budget is what are the key assumptions that may be different from prior years' budgets that have driven the calculation of numbers this year. I think it would be just helpful to understand because all budgets are driven based on assumptions and factors in there. What are the important ones that have driven changes? I think I heard a question earlier on about like equipment's gone up, 140% or something like this, but I would imagine there's an underlying assumption or something like that. So I'm just curious in getting feedback from the administration on what those major assumption changes are that might have differed from prior years. Thanks.
Sure, we'll send you an email. Thanks.
Okay, it's not possible to discuss now because if we're having a public hearing on the budget, it would be nice to have
But
the
it's not
discussion.
it's not a dialogue.
I realize it's not a dialogue, but if it's part of your presentation,
we-
we wouldn't have to ask the question.
And the budget, of course, will be adopted next month, so there'll be a whole month of, we'll take input.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll get this to you. Thank you, Len.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
For the board's benefit, of course, I think the largest component is that we have that $1.5 million adoption of math curriculum that's going to occur this year. So, but I will get back to Mr. Green on that.
Great. And then we'll have the other information from Mike at the September meeting. Is this with regard to the hearing that we're? Okay, then later in the meeting, we'll call you up? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn, the suggested motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the public hearing on the adoption of the fiscal year 2016 tentative budget.
Second.
We're set. Superintendent reports.
Okay, the first thing I'd like to do this evening is to introduce some new administrators that are joining the team. These are people that have risen to the top over hundreds of people that applied for positions in the district. We have 3 new principals that are starting this year that have moved up from the assistant principal ranks, learned their craft and excelled at their craft, and we recognize that they would make great principals. And so I'd like for the 3 new principals to stand. First, Rachel Bland is here. She's brought her family tonight. I see her 2 daughters back there, her husband. Rachel was the assistant principal at Sanborn last year, and she's taking over at Stuart R. Paddock this year. We're excited about Rachel. Rachel, how long were you an assistant principal? 10 years. 10 years. Well, thanks for being patient. The next principal that's going to be starting, it's already started actually, and starting his first year as the principal is Matt Warren. Matt is taking over at Winston Campus Junior High. He was a part of the team that really turned the building around with Renee and with Jeanette. And Matt is going to carry on the tradition that Renee started and just to move the building even farther forward. When his name was announced, there was a loud cheer of applause because they were excited that Matt was going to take over. So, and Matt, how long have you been an assistant principal in the district?
5 years.
You were at CLA for 2 and then 3 at Winston Campus before you take over. Well, congratulations, and we're looking forward to seeing you in action.
Thank you very much.
Our last principal, new rookie principal, is Jennifer Sewani, and Jennifer's family is here as well to recognize her accomplishments. They're really proud of her, as we are. Jennifer was the assistant principal at Lake Louise. Now she's taking over as the principal, and Jennifer is going to do a great job. Again, when the staff heard about her, they were really pleased because they knew her and they knew that she was going to continue to do a good job there. So Jennifer, congratulations. Welcome to the team. We're glad to have you on the administrative principal team.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
We also hired 5 assistant principals this year. We had a number of openings because we promoted 3 from within, and then there were a couple other openings that occurred. Kelly Rice is the new assistant principal at Winston Campus Junior High, joining Matt Warren and Jeanette Sander. Kelly got his bachelor's degree from Winona State, his master's degree from South Dakota University. He earned his doctorate in educational leadership. He was a PE teacher and head football coach at Zion Benton of the ZBs, right?
ZBs.
That's correct. And he was also physical education director, activities and athletic director at Naperville Bridge High School, District 203. So, Kelly, we're glad to have you here. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
Next is Michelle LaCamera, and she's the assistant principal at Lake Louise Elementary School. And Michelle earned her bachelor's degree in elementary education with a minor in psychology from Northeastern Illinois. She had her master's from Northeastern, and she did teacher, writing, coordinating, and literacy leading at Jose de Diego Community Academy in Chicago. She was also an assistant principal in the CPS system. So we're glad to have you out here. I think you've learned through the School of Hard Knocks, and so I think you'll find it a really great place to work in District 15. So Michelle, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Next is Pablo Boleda. I'm sorry, Pablo. The assistant principal at Winston Campus Elementary. He earned his teaching certificate through Rockford University, his master's in educational management from Northeastern Illinois. He's been a bilingual teacher in District 60, and since 2008, he was an assistant principal in Waukegan District 60, and he's making the long drive down from Gurnee to be in a wonderful school district. We're glad to have you, Pablo.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
2 more to go.
Oh, okay.
Patty Van Winkle.
I want to make sure we applaud.
is the new assistant principal at Central Road Elementary. She earned her bachelor's degree in elementary ed from Iowa State University, the Cyclones. She earned her master's degree from Roosevelt University, where Dr. Chapman was you're the dean of
Dean of the College of Education.
Dean of the College of Education. She was a teacher in Villa Park, School District 45, assistant principal in Plainfield and in Keeneyville. So she has some experience with her, and we're looking forward to her assisting at Central Road, and we're really glad to have you, Patty.
Thank you.
Thank you. But last and not least, Marilyn Smith is the new assistant principal at Graham Sandberg, taking over for Rachel, who moved on. She earned her bachelor's degree from Southern Illinois in Carbondale, her master's degree from Northeastern. She served as a program leader in Special Recreational Services of Northern Lake County. She's been a mentoring manager for Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Lake County, and she was a teacher in Waukegan Public Schools and Round Lake Public Schools. So she brings some real nice experiences with her to our Graham Sandberg population. So we're really glad to have you here, Marilyn.
I'm very excited to be a part of this.
Okay,
Now?
congratulations. Yeah. And as an added welcome and thank you, you're free to go now and get home, spend time with your family, and you'll be back at work early in the morning, so feel free to leave. The next item in my section really is to make a recommendation about construction management firms. At a special meeting earlier on July 23rd this summer, we heard from two construction management firms. They presented what they had to offer as far as being in charge of our life safety work that we've got planned for the next 2 summers. They talked about how they could help the district make sure the projects were done on time and work to make sure that they were done in the most fiscally responsible way possible. After hearing the recommendation, we asked for both firms to give us their fee structure, and so we received those actually late Friday. We kind of analyzed them on Monday and then worked on them Tuesday, talked to some people that had used them, just did some more reference checking after our initial reference checking. And after analyzing all the feedback from the people that were involved and for examining their rates, I'm happy tonight to say that we are recommending, the administration is recommending that the Board of Education hired Gilbane Construction to be the construction management company for the next 2 summers for our life safety work.
Questions now or later during the action?
We can do it discussion at the motion, or we can do it now.
Discussion of the motion's fine.
Okay. All right, so then the next item I have is to talk just a little bit about the budget reduction. I promised, I think in the spring, that I would come back after we had the tentative budget in the spring and come back to you with some ideas about trying to get towards a balanced budget. And I presented you with some potential reductions that we had talked about in cabinet, and the budget deficit was at that time about $2.5 million, and $1.5 million, as I've already referenced, of the budget was really for a one-time cost for a math curriculum adoption. And one of the ideas we talked about was that we could delay that math curriculum adoption, and that would certainly take $1.5 million of the $2.5 million. But as I saw it, I think that the math curriculum is extremely important. We haven't adopted a curriculum in many years, and it's now time to really get aligned with the Common Core state standards and make sure the kids are learning what they need to so they can be successful in high school, college, and beyond. And these one-time costs are not ongoing budget items, and I think that that's exactly what our fund balances should be used for. So I kind of used the $1.5 million as a one-time cost, and it's really not a part of the budget deficit that would be ongoing. So my recommendation is that we reduce supplies and purchase services by about 5%, which comes to about $788,000, and that we also consider leasing a portion of the tech devices to the tune of about $316,000, which would be a reduction of about $1.1 million. Combined with the $1.5 million, it really gets us to a balanced budget, except for that one-time $1.5 million deficit. Now, since then, there are a couple numbers that have changed that Mike talked about in his tentative budget presentation earlier. And so I think we've got another $300,000 that has emerged, and we'll keep working on that $300,000 to see if we can find some reductions to get that towards a balanced budget. We really would like to get as close to a balanced budget as possible. I think we've done a really good job at this point, so I'm recommending that the board give us the authority to maybe change those items in the budget when we come back for the adoption next month, and we'll reduce the budget deficit by 1.1. We'll look at some other ways where we can get it down to an actual balanced budget, except for that $1.5 million.
Question? Yeah. So thank
Angela?
you for that. Appreciate your work on that one. One question that came up, actually, two. This 5% reduction, is that out of the 24% increase that we have? So that would be a net increase of only 20%? Is that how I should read that? Because we looked at the supplies, which went up 20 on the estimated budget.
I think that was only in the ed fund, and so we're talking about in all funds that we reduce purchase services. So
By 5%.
We would look and see. I think it's across the board is what we're suggesting.
Okay.
So we would plan to reduce 5% of all funds, the total purchase services and supplies budget.
Because I just wanted to understand if it's the same numbers I'm looking at, so thanks for that clarity. The other is, you're talking about lease versus purchase, portion of the tech devices. Isn't that, we're leasing, that might reduce it to a certain amount, but in the long run, you're still paying that amount. It might total up to be a larger amount for the duration of the lease, or the 316,000 is the duration of the lease.
Well, I think we talked about 3-year lease. Is that what we had, Mike?
Yeah, well, coming up, part of the tech budget for 15, 16 is the replacement of some of the server equipment to the tune of about $800,000. Now, that's a one-time only expenditure because we're not going to do that every year. So I really, with the board's space, was, the board want to spend $800,000 in year one, which obviously contributes to the deficit, which is probably part of the equipment and supplies, which we talked about earlier. Or if we're really interested in reducing the deficit, do we lease that over a 5-year period to reduce your deficit in year one, and then we spread the cost over a 5-year period? Will you pay more on the lease over a 5-year period? Yes, you will. Are rates at a historically low level today? Yes, they are. So it's a philosophical, discussion on how the board really wants to handle that purchase.
So as you're looking through that, is there a way, because you're looking at $800,000 versus $300,000 per year for the next 5 years, right? Which equals approximately 1.5 million, right? Can we lay it out in terms of how that impacts as we're making these decisions about the cost cuts? Does it make sense is that going to cause over the next 5 years a deficit as well? Because we're leasing it over a 5-year period, how that impacts the overall budget?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good question, and the interest cost would be pretty nominal for the 5-year lease. But I think that it would increase our expenditures going out.
Yeah, so that's one of the things we should lay out.
We'd have to look at the 5-year forecast to see exactly how that would impact it.
Yeah, so basically what happened is we would reduce expenditures in year one, but then we'd incur, if it's a 3-year lease, expenditures in years 2 and 3. Or 5 years, then in years 2, 3, 4, and 5.
And if I look at an average of 300,000, you're paying more over a 5-year period than you would in year one. And then, so it would be nice to see that comparison.
And we've got this good, so we estimate that, so I've got that, so I can be out of the board in September. So I look at these costs would be over a 3 or 5-year period, and the effect would be
Okay.
on the budget.
Mike, what is a lease, what is the interest rate going for on equipment like that now? Is it similar to what you see on other consumable goods?
I think when we did the laptop lease, which was just in May, I think.
Or non-
I think our interest rate was 0.9%. Although I think that'll go up, because the Fed keeps talking about raising interest rates.
I mean, they keep talking about
keep talking about it, and then they stop, and they talk about it, and they stop again. Do I think that rate's gonna go up? All signals seem to be going that way. I don't
Maybe a
think
half a point.
substantially.
Yeah.
So that interest cost probably will go up between now and December 31st. Will it go up a lot? Probably not.
Minimal. Okay.
Even with one kick in that rate between now and December 31, the rates are still gonna be at basically historically low. Which would then increase our borrowing costs because interest rates. But again, but not as substantial.
Angela, that's it.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
The second item in my section I'd like to address is the extracurricular soccer program. And tonight I'm recommending that we expand that. Last year was kind of a pilot program, and Dr. Schnorr gave us an update on how the program was overwhelmingly successful. There was a tremendous turnout. We had to turn away a large number of students that wanted to play soccer because we only had 144 slots. So there was a number of students that wanted to play that couldn't. For the costs associated with the program, it's a wonderful activity that gets kids involved in their school, makes them invested. I think they do better academics. That's what research has shown. And it also, last year, really increased the school spirit of the schools where they participated in soccer. If you came to any of the games, you saw so many kids out there rooting their friends on, and at the end of the games, the kids were just so cordial to each other. Even the losing team was just, really friendly, and the spirit of the games was very impressive. And I just think that this is a way to really hook kids, and they'll be better academically because of this experience. They'll have a better experience school-wide. They'll have more pride in their school. And for about $40,000 to expand the program, I'm recommending that the board approve that expansion.
And you might mention consistent with the proposed goals for next year as well. Expanding the extracurricular programs, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And so moving on to the goals, that was a nice lead. Thank you, Dr. Chapman. We do have the board goals that I'm asking the board to approve later on in the agenda. Quickly highlight those. The board met at a retreat meeting in June and met with the administrative team, and collectively spent hours together trying to figure out what they wanted to work on this year. And these are the goals that really have emerged from that activity, and that I think we are recommending that the board adopt and have us work on this year. The first, under improving student achievement, we really would like to continue to create a comprehensive curriculum revision cycle. As I said, we haven't had a curriculum revision process in maybe a dozen years. And so Dr. Schnorr has really worked on creating a master plan to keep us on track and work on that. And so she will be working on that this year. We also, in preparation for adoption of the math curriculum support materials for next year, she has implemented and she will evaluate a math pilot that's going to occur in, over 100 classrooms, I think, this year, right? Yeah, 100 classrooms are going to be piloting 2 different math support materials to find out which one we really want to adopt. The other thing that will happen under the category of improving student achievement is that we'll be preparing for the next generation science standards. And that work will be getting the teachers together to see what our current curriculum has and what's aligned with the next generation science standards, what needs to be changed, what needs to be thrown out. And we'll be working on that all year so that we can really be in a good position to adopt the next generation science standards that have just come out. Under the learning and organizational development, we want to explore extracurricular opportunities for students. We know that research shows us that the more they're involved in extracurricular activities, the better they do in school. The better attendance they have, the better grades they get. And so, as Dr. Chapman talked about, this is one of the reasons why I'm recommending that we expand the soccer program. The other thing we want to do is investigate the cost and feasibility of offering full-day kindergarten to our students in the district. And so this year, the goal is to investigate and complete a study that's presented to the board to talk about the cost and whether we could actually do it based upon space, what kind of space needs we'd have. We also want to identify ways to expand the preschool program. As the board found out in June, We typically have up to 200 students on a waiting list for the early childhood programs in our buildings, and we just don't have the space for them. And so these programs don't cost us money because we've got money supported by a grant from one of our partners that we have, but we just don't have the physical space. So we were going to look at seeing if there were ways that we could expand the preschool program and making a presentation to the board in June. We also want to create a proposal for the adoption of academies throughout the district. Academies that would offer students the option of going to a school that's focused on a theme or a process that they might find interesting. And so we work all year identifying with community input what kind of academies would be of interest and how we might be able to roll that out and present that to the board in June as well. Under effective instructional environments, we want to plan to schedule and fund all the A items of the life safety study. So this year we want to make sure that we're in a good position to take care of those buildings and meet the requirements of our life safety study that says that we have to take care of these A items within a year or shortly thereafter if we file an extension. Under stakeholder involvement, we'd like to create and facilitate two-way communication with all stakeholders. So we'd like to work on figuring out ways to do that.
If I could, yeah, this one is very important to us. I mean, we are not doing the communication committee this year, but we have made it a priority that we want to make sure that we do have two-way communication. So if there are vehicles out there, this is one that we would like to see sooner rather than later, and set up a communication system with our community.
Great. Love to work on that. Thank you. And the last goal really is under the category of resource stewardship, and that is we'd like to conduct a feasibility study on the creation of a three-tiered busing schedule. Our consultant that we hired a couple years ago indicated there was pretty significant savings that were available to us if we went to a three-tier schedule. And so we'd like to really study that hard this year, come back to the board and show you if there is some savings, and if so, figure out a way that we might be able to roll that out, and that would help us with our budget deficit, and we could use those funds for really directly impacting students in the classroom. So those are the goals.
Just a quick question. Are we going to post this? Typically what we've done is we posted it on our website, seeked out community feedback. Because I saw this as part of the agenda item. I'm assuming we're not going to be doing that this time, or?
I certainly am willing to do that. I think the board worked with the administration in June. I felt like we had a consensus, and the community can still have input on things they'd like us to work on. I think we're going to hear something in just a few minutes from one of our parents. But I think the board and the administration kind of said, these are the things we really want to work on this year. We'll work on other things if the community, gives us enough input and directs us to do something.
I think it would be a good idea, and again, it's up to the board, but it is a good idea to seek input on the goals, because we are representing the community members as one of the stakeholders as we stand here. And it's a good idea to seek their feedback. While we may all be okay with the goals, they may have certain things that they want to see as goals. And that doesn't stop the administration to start working on trying to get these goals. It's not saying that don't work on it until it's approved or whatever. But the fact is that, getting it out to the community, seeking their input, it goes a long way. As President Babcock said, stakeholder involvement. That's one way to get them involved.
I mean, this thing was obviously available to the public, right? I mean, this exact part of this board packet.
A couple of days ago, actually, just yesterday, as a matter of fact.
So no one's taking it down. I mean, it would be there. I mean, maybe. I mean, I just when we talk
They're on
about
the website.
when we talk about informing the public, I mean. I think we got to be specific about it. If we're gonna, I think that it's available. The people that I talk to, parents and whatnot, I regularly tell them that, hey, the most important thing you could do is, take a look at that website often. Read the material that comes to you. So if it's been done, unless we want to try to discuss about other ways that we should be informing the public generally, I think I mean, it allows me to tell people, hey, refer, all this stuff, there's a lot of things that's posted, you have to go on the website and check it out,
So it's there, absolutely there, as part of the board packet that the press has. However, the goals are not set aside. The goals that are there are from last year. We, like I said, it's a way, if the board decides that, that's not the right approach, that's fine, but we want to seek out community input before we vote on something that we are representing, right? We're representing the students of the community, we're representing the staff of the community, we're representing the parents of the community, and these goals, are encompassing their feedback. While we can say, go look at the website and go search that, having it as, these are the board goals that we'd like to adopt. Give us your feedback if you think there should be something different. This is what our recommendation is, but we seek your feedback. Just lays out there even more the openness, the transparency aspect of us trying to work with the community. So that's my attempt to try and say why we should try and post it out. But again, whatever the board majority decides.
May I ask a question? Tell me the process that we went through to get these developed. Who was involved?
All of the principals, central office administrators, and the Board of Education.
Okay, so in that process, the board was well aware that the board's goals were being developed, It seems to me that that process was laid out for us, and rather than wait till the 11th hour to change the process, if we felt that it was necessary to get community support, and I'm not arguing that we shouldn't, but it seemed to me that should have been spelled out as part of the process initially. So if we have objection to the process, we object to the process at the beginning of the process, not when we get to the point of adopting the end product of the process. That said, I also appreciate the fact that you're asking, I think, Dr. Barbini to come back fairly quickly, and if I read the goal chart here, with a plan in terms of involvement with our stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps part of that communications would be of what circumstances and of what materials that the board considers are those that the community would be interested enough and have significant impact in, that we should include that as an upfront part of the process.
I think a good point, just for point of clarification, the last 3-4 years, we've always posted the goals. If that was not going to be the process, I think that should have been laid out as well. So the expectation was, just like we've done the past few years, that we've posted the goals for 30 days for public feedback, that it would be done. The reason why this was not brought up was that mere fact that it's been done for the last few years as posting.
So you, without putting words, your suggestion is that we post them and then table this and consider it?
In September, yeah, that's all it is. It's a request, just let's post it out, that this is what we're suggesting, and then, there's feedback, great. If not, then we're going to continue working on it as we speak right now.
Right.
Well,
And
I
again,
think-
just as a single board member, I understand that. As long as we can give the direction to the superintendent that we would want the process to be continued, not to be held up for a month.
No.
But I'd like to hear what the other board members have to say about that. But
Well-
again, I think it's important that when we talk about process in the development, whether it's the goals or any other process that we're involved in, that we determine what the process is going to be at the beginning rather than come back later.
And my only feedback, and I want to remind everyone on the board, is that when we did discuss these goals, we did discuss that, I don't see any reason to hold these up. These are in agreement, but we did say that that is a fluid document. If we feel that we need to add something, if there's another goal that we need to add, we can certainly do that. I don't disagree at all. I think they should be posted. I don't think that is a problem. But I don't see any reason to hold up these goals tonight.
I think, in terms of taking a vote as adoption, that's where, my recommendation is to table it at least for a month. So we post it, but I'm not saying that these are goals that should not be worked on. I'm absolutely in agreement that these goals should be worked on and made progress on. But the fact that the adoption, is, after we seek that community feedback, if we adopt, it's respecting the community stakeholders in this process. That's all my recommendation is.
I would agree. I'm to the point, I think we should let the public see them. I don't have a problem posting them for 30 days, and I think they will get adopted in one more month. Probably won't hurt us, and I think if we did get any constructive feedback from the public, I think it may be helpful. And again, Jerry, I think you're right, if we go through the process as we go through it again, up front.
We have our
should lay
expectation.
it down. So I'm for posting it for 30 days and tabling it till the
We can do that when we get it as an action item.
Anyone else?
Okay, the last item I'd like to talk about is just the opening of the 2015-16 school year. Another school year is upon us. More than 12,000 students, I'm sure, are anxiously awaiting for the first day of school. Most of them will start on August 24th, a few on the 25th, and then a few days later, there are going to be more coming. They're awaiting their teacher assignments and which friends will be in their classes. We've had lots of activity this summer. As you've seen, we have 3 new principals, 5 new assistant principals, maybe a 6th possibility in the near future. A new executive director of human resources. I'm glad to have her on board. New director of assessment, accountability, and programs. Tom Edgar is here. Our custodians have been working hard, and many of them have been working in between construction projects to get schools ready, and it's a hard work during the summer, deep cleaning. They do a lot of things that lasts all year, and they've been working very hard. We've had teachers working in professional development. They've been teaching summer school. We've had SELA, the Summer Early Literacy Program that has been offered to several of our kids. Summer Blast has occurred this summer. Craig and his staff have been working hard on some construction projects that Jan drew up. We've had plumbing at Lincoln School, Plum Grove, and Carl Sandborn, and we've had some parking lot paving projects at some other schools. With the exception of Lincoln School, everything's gone pretty smoothly. I think Lincoln School for us is an example why it would really be great to have a construction management firm, because the plumbing contractor at that particular location has really kind of dropped the ball. And no fault of our guys, but if we had somebody there that was dedicated all the time, I think that they would have saw that they were falling behind, not keeping up, and installing things at the improper height. And I think that we would have been in a better position to open school. Now, we will open school, and there'll be no real issues, but it's not as smooth as it could have been. And this is just a small project, kind of a smaller size project. When we talk about doing nearly $10 million worth of work at several schools, I think Lincoln School this year, for me, is a reason why we really need that construction manager to oversee the project in the next 2 summers. We have 55 new teachers that are participating all week in a new teacher orientation, and hopefully you'll be able to see those teachers at the new teacher induction luncheon on Friday. We continue to hire teachers with less experience. The average teaching experience is 2.3 years. The teachers have come from Illinois, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Virginia, New York, and Columbia. 22 of them have master's degrees. We've tried to hire teachers at the bachelor's level without any or much experience to keep costs down. But there are times when we have to hire teachers with master's degree because it's required for the job, and because there are no other candidates that really could fill those positions. So we're starting off with the math pilot, as I said, in over 100 classrooms, maybe up to 150 classrooms, working on the next generation science standards. We've had CHAMPS training for all the new teachers, and there will be several schools that will be training their staff on this CHAMPS program, which is a classroom management program. Really helps teachers have the tools in order to get kids in a position to learn and get to learning much faster than if they didn't have these tools. And so that's been kind of an exciting process that we've been going through. Today was the second day of professional development for principals. We had the Center for Educational Leadership from the University of Washington come, and they were training principals and principal coaches on how to provide feedback to teachers so the teachers could be as effective as possible and students learning at the highest level. So that was another exciting thing that took place just the past 2 days. Right now, our K-8 enrollment is at 11,925. This time last year, it was 11,911, so we're up by about 14 students. That number will climb over 12,000 when our early childhood students enter. We've got an initial of about 175 early childhood kids coming. They start, Sue, when do they start? Like a week or two after?
The majority will start on the 25th, actually.
Oh, they do. Yeah, so the early childhood kids will be coming. And then as the year goes on, when they come 3 years of age, then they're qualified to be in the program. We'll add more. We'll get over 200 early childhood kids, and we'll be well over 12,000 students before you know it. Got all of our bus routes selected and covered. All the drivers are hired. We continue to hire some more to make sure we got enough substitutes and people in the pipeline. But I'm excited about the school year every year. It's kind of fun to have the respite of the summer and look forward to a new beginning. And I think the enthusiasm and the excitement you saw in the new teachers is something that's contagious, and everybody kind of has that feeling that they're ready to get back to school in the fall and make a difference in the lives of the students. So I'm excited about that.
I'm certainly going to miss the elementary school this fall, for sure. So,
And just as a reminder, all of the board members are invited to the new teacher orientation luncheon on Friday. What time is that?
It starts at 12:15.
Okay.
So that's it for my section. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to reading and acceptance of the minutes.
before we do that, can we break it up into two, please? The June 23rd as a separate one, because I was not there due to my flight delays. If we can break that up,
Sure.
that would be great.
Okay. May I have the suggested motion for the first two minutes of the first two meetings, the 15th and the 17th,
I
please?
make a motion to approve the minutes from the following meetings of the Board of Education: June 15th, 2015, Board of Education and District Leadership Team Retreat; June 17th, 2015, regular Board of Education meeting.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Eckert,
Aye.
Con,
Aye.
Morrison. Aye. Seifert,
Aye.
Huron,
Aye.
Babcock.
Aye.
Chapman.
Aye.
Angela, do you want to make the suggested motion,
Sure.
please, for the July 23rd meeting?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the following meeting of the Board of Education: July 23rd, 2015, special meeting and its representative executive session as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Con,
Aye.
Morrison. Aye. Seifert,
Aye.
Huron,
Abstain?
Babcock.
Aye.
Chapman.
Aye.
Eckert.
I just want to make a comment. Thank you so much for getting back to me with all the information, so very much appreciated.
Okay. Just a reminder that if anyone has joined us since the meeting started, citizens that want to address the board, the green sheets are in the vestibule, and they need to come up to our secretary, Mrs. Becker, please. We're going to move on to board discussion and reports. Item number 6, Ed Red. Dr. Chapman.
Well, there hasn't been much activity in Springfield that has been made public, at least. I'm sure that there's activity going on, but however, so the budget has not been approved. However, the good news, I guess, is for us at least, is that the governor signed into law the bill that increases K through 12 funding by $240 million. So that results in a 92% proration, which improves our position for next year. And that is reflected in our budget that was presented tonight as well. So, but it remains to be seen what happens with the other aspects of the
Big game of
funding.
chicken going on right now,
Exactly.
isn't there?
Oh, and in the packet that you received, there's a summary of the pending bills, but I don't think there's any reason to go over those tonight.
Okay. District 15 Educational Foundation, I know there was nothing to report.
Just waiting to set our yearly meeting. I don't know if you heard, August 26th, I think was the date that they're setting for, but that's it
Okay,
right
so
now.
we'll have that next month?
Yep.
Okay. Any new business, old business, or other? Then we are going to move right ahead to item 7, which is citizens address the board. And Rebecca, is it Costas? Castro. I'm sorry.
My name is Rebecca Castro. I am a community member. I live at 924 North Arrowhead here across the street. I teach in District 214. I'm a bilingual teacher. I've taught there for 10 years. I taught in Mexico. I've taught in the city. Bilingual education from kindergarten through community college. So this is my passion. It's something I do. I'm very involved in. I've researched it extensively. We moved to this community about 5 years ago, mainly because of the diversity, because of the progressive nature of this area of Chicago, and I was kind of hopeful at the time that we would see something come towards with the dual language education. I know there's dual language in many neighboring communities, and it continues to grow. It just opened in Glen Ellen, but it's been in place for a long time in Barrington, in Schaumburg, in Vernon Hills, in Grades Lake. It recently opened a few years ago. And dual language education, according to all the research, is the most effective language program for both English and Spanish or Chinese or any other language that's implemented over the long term. I would believe that what keeps most people back from implementing it is the cost. It's a long-term commitment. I know our district, District 15, is on the transitional bilingual model, and that's what's most common in this part of the country. But according to my research that I've done on my own, a lot of those kids come to high school. Half of them identified still as English language learners were born in the United States, so in a lot of cases is failing them in terms of getting their English language proficiency and their Spanish language proficiency at the level it needs to be. But this all, that's my professional world. Personally, I've seen in my neighborhood many families leave the community, either moving, selling their homes to move to other areas nearby, or choosing to go to the private schools because of just the fear of the unknown, of the changing demographics, particularly in the 3 schools on the east side of Palatine, Lake Louise, Virginia Lake. My son's at Virginia Lake, I don't know if I mentioned that, and Jane Addams. It happens all the time that I'll be at the pool, I'll be at Mariano's, having a conversation. People don't know my background because they don't think I'm a Spanish speaker, and they just open up to me and tell me, well, how's 3rd grade, when the kids transition into the monolingual English class. And it's fine, actually, but the public perception is that of fear. And we're seeing a lot of families leave. I pulled the demographics and the charts and the report cards, and just at Virginia Lake in the past, I have it here, 4 years, there's been a 20% shift where the Hispanic population has increased, and the white population has decreased by about 14%. And that's similar at Lake Louise and Jane Addams as well. So the families clearly are leaving, and the Hispanic population is growing, and which is another reason I really believe dual language would be something to keep our English-speaking families in the community. If those families could know that they were going to be learning Spanish as well, it would be a bilingual opportunity for them. I've had my son say to me, oh, the Mexican kids. I'm like, well, by the way, you're Mexican, your dad is Mexican. But the kids are already cognizant of that at the 2nd grade level, that there's an us and them, because they're segregated from kindergarten until 3rd grade. And at this point, it's difficult for them to make friendships. And at the level of the parents, it's very awkward for the parents, even for me. If I walk into any of the events, it's definitely an us and them phenomenon. And I feel like if we were able to put the kids together from kindergarten, and in an ideal world, in a full-day kindergarten, the families would be more invested in getting to know each other. The kids would develop friendships, and over time, the community would change, and the perceptions would change, and they would see. I met with Mr. Carmody about this, and he said, well, your son is here, and you can see he's making progress. Yes, he's had a great experience here, and that's what other families have commented at Lake Louise and other schools. But that is not the public perception, unfortunately. People believe that the education in those 3 East Side schools is not as high quality as the other side of Palatine. So that's a concern that not just me, any parent I have that I've met with in my neighborhood brings up all the time. And I think this is a perfect time, since we're talking about developing academies. Language academies, I think, would be a perfect opportunity, especially in those 3 schools. We have the perfect mix of demographics, and obviously it would benefit both populations, short and long term, as well as over long term communities and parents, and getting them more involved. So I guess I would just be interested in learning what language, if language academies are part of the goal, what specifically will they be addressing, what populations are being targeted, what are the expected outcomes and goals, and if they're going to be something over the long term dual language requires a commitment from kindergarten to sixth grade, and then eventually it has to be phased into middle school, so it's more expansive. I think that's mostly what I wanted to say. Yeah. So
Thank you very much.
These have been my concerns. You have my information. If anyone is interested in tapping into me as a community member, I'm obviously bilingual. I'm willing to, partner up and get the community support. We had talked, it was a good thing for me to be at this meeting to hear about what we were talking about, getting the feedback from the community. The website to address the Hispanic population is not sufficient. I mean, I'm a skilled educator, and I'm still looking which tab is it's going to be under. For a family, who's new to the country and doesn't understand where they would find information, how the process is made, and they can even be involved, they probably wouldn't know that. I think, even a survey, a paper survey on the first day of school, something like that, to gather their feedback as to whether they feel like these programs have been serving them, especially families who've had several siblings to go through the system to see where they're at, once they get to high school. Are they reading at grade level in English? Are our programs serving them for English as well as Spanish? So, like I said, you have my information. If anybody wants to contact me, I'm happy to be involved with any movements, initiatives going with the language academies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Castro. There's some positive feedback for our goals, right?
For sure. For sure. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to move on to action items. Item 15-820, the personnel report. May I have the suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the August 12, 2015 personnel report as presented, including the following recommendation. Recommendation for the approval of a one-day unpaid suspension for Kimberly Ron.
Second, is there a second?
Second?
Discussion?
I just have one question. We reprinted, we reintroduced the HR director for the public, and we're re-voting on that?
It just wasn't, we wanted to give the public an opportunity to make sure they saw it on the personnel report. So it was voted on last time, but we want to re-vote on it so that the public had a chance to see it on the personnel report.
So because I had voted no on that particular topic last time, I'll be voting no again today.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Hahn.
Aye.
Morrison. Aye. Seifert.
Aye.
Jerem.
No.
Babcock.
Aye.
Chapman.
Aye.
Eckert.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 15-821, approval of District 15 Transportation Union Agreement. May I have the suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the agreement between District 15 Transportation Union and the Board of Education of Community Consolidated School District 15, 2015 through 2020, as presented.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I do have a statement I'd like to read, if that's okay, during the
Discussion,
discussion.
sure.
Thank you. I would like to thank all of the District 15 Transportation Unit for their services and my sincere condolences for the loss of their previous DTU president. Any negotiated contract, especially when working with children, should consider the following areas: safety, reliability, and economics. While we have made some positive movement in some of the areas, I will be voting no on the DTU contract, and I'd like to explain my reasons for this no vote. Economics is my first category. 2 years ago, based on the information provided, we identified that District 15 cost per mile is about $6.59. This amount is 15% higher than U46, 91% higher than Batavia School Districts, and 249% higher than Geneva School District. District 15 numbers are from 2 years ago, while the other numbers are from 2014 that have been submitted to ISBE. Now let us fast forward to present, and based on the numbers, if we give a raise of 5% to the DTU members, the cost per mile increase would be to $6.62, and a disparity in cost per mile between our district and other district even higher than what it is today. As we increase this each year, again, these increases are compounded with a minimum increase of 2.25%. I have not even looked at, the ceiling. Year 2 will be $6.77. That's this year. Next year, year 3 would be $6.92, approximately $7.23 in year 5, which is an increase of approximately 10%. That's on the floor increases. from today's cost per mile, and over 300% when compared with some other districts. Again, these are just numbers that I've looked at from the ISB public records. Safety and reliability, the other two areas where the contract should be focused on, ensuring that our children are transported safely and with reliability, with minimum absenteeism. Over the last 2 years, there have not been any concrete metrics shared by the district to know if our previous contract has made any positive strides in this area. While there is some indication that there is additional language included in this particular contract, I don't have the complete information except the summary to know that what accountability there is to ensure that our children are safe. So for those reasons, I'll be voting no.
Anyone else?
I would like to thank President Babcock and Vice President Eckberg and the negotiating team for working well with the DTU negotiating team. I think it was a cordial, hardworking session, and I think neither side got exactly what they wanted, but we were focused on what was in the best interest of the drivers and the kids and the district, and I think this is historically one of the better contracts that's been negotiated. So thank you to the negotiating team.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, roll call.
Morrison? Aye. Seifert?
Aye.
Jerem?
No.
Babcock?
Aye.
Chapman?
Aye.
Eckberg?
Aye.
Con?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 15-822, approval of extracurricular soccer program expansion. May I have the suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the extracurricular soccer program expansion to include 2 boys teams and 2 girls teams, 1 7th and 1 8th grade team for each gender, for a cost of approximately $80,000 as recommended.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Seifert?
Aye.
Jerem?
Aye.
Babcock?
Aye.
Chapman?
Aye.
Eckberg?
Aye.
Con?
Aye.
Morrison?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 15-823, approval of management construction firm. May I have the suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to approve entering into a contract for the services of a construction management firm with Gilbane Construction, Chicago, Illinois, as recommended.
Second.
Discussion.
I just had one question. So the pricing that we got, was that fixed bid? That regardless of, and was there contingency built in that?
No, they're both a percentage of the total cost, and so if the cost goes down, then their fee goes down. If the cost goes up, their fee goes up. So the cost is a percentage of, the fee is the cost of, is a percentage of the cost of the work.
Okay. And what kind of points do we have or controls do we have to make sure that the cost is not unnecessarily high? Do we have any kind of controls around that? Because obviously if it's a percentage of the total cost, we need to make sure that the costs are contained.
Well, we're going to be reviewing
We get all the bids.
all the bids.
Right.
We're gonna
Unlike,
hold all the bids.
unlike with a contractor who gets the job and then hires subcontractors, we will review all of the contracts for all of the subcontractors. One of the benefits of having a construction manager. So we'll have control of that.
Over
And
money
one
spent.
of the things that Gilbane recommended was going out early in November for bids because there are more people interested in bidding, getting jobs in November when the regular season is January, February, March, and then by then some people got jobs lined up and they're not going to look at this job, which is not very attractive because there's so many buildings and the work is not that exciting. So I think we're going to get better rates than we would have if we'd done things differently.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Jerem?
No.
Babcock?
Aye.
Chapman?
Aye.
Eckberg?
Aye.
Con?
Aye.
Morrison?
Aye.
Seifert?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 15-824, Blackboard Engage Renewal, Edline Services. May I have the suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the Blackboard Engage Renewal, Edline Web Hosting Services, Washington, D.C. for a total cost of $26,520 as presented.
Second.
Discussion?
I just have 2 questions on this. I've been on our website quite a bit, and when the search engine, first of all, whichever is working on this, have we looked at potentially other web hosting services at all? I know, And the only reason I ask that is because there's a lot of times where our website is down, and if you have to type exactly certain words. So if you do ccsd15.net, sometimes it doesn't take you unless you put www.ccsd15. So there's some issues with that. Have we looked at potentially other web hosting services?
Well, the process, we engaged the services of Edline 2 years ago, and there was a committee that was gathered, and they researched a large number of web hosting services, and this is the one that the committee recommended. I haven't really been informed that there have been issues with the website.
See, it may be something you just bring it to their attention, but it's been very, and I've heard it, and I say type exactly this and it'll work. The best way to get there is, when you Google it and you go through it, it works. But if you try to type in or go from your favorites, there is issues with it. So it may be something you bring up with them as you go through it, something to bring to their attention. Maybe it's something to do with their DMZ or any of that they could clean up, or the routing. But there might be some server that has an issue in their farm.
Well, I appreciate that. I think, the goal about getting two-way communication from the community is, I think we want to have a vehicle where people can
Right.
let us know those kinds of things so that we can act upon them.
Right, they may have reached out. I don't know if they've reached out to the webmaster or not, but I get questions just because of my background in computer science. So
We do get feedback from time to time, so there's that feedback loop that's built in to the web page content management system. We will have to, necessity is going to require us to review our website, because Edline has been bought out and it's going to be a completely new product. Edline will no longer be supported in anywhere between 2 to 3 years, and so we're going to have to take a look at our web page and our content management system. Once again, necessity will require that, and I think it's a great opportunity, as Dr. Thompson had indicated, to engage our community. There's a considerable number of web pages and content management systems which are very user-friendly and intuitive, that I think we'll have an opportunity to review.
yeah, I think at that time, when time is right, you may want to get people who are in that industry, in the web content industry involved. UI experts, because our community is full of them. That would really help, because our website is not user-friendly, to say the best.
Okay, I have not had any problem with it, and I am
Yeah.
certainly not a techie, but I can type in CCSD15 and not have a problem with it.
Same.
But I appreciate it, and I think we need to keep monitoring it as we go forward. Any other comments, questions, suggestions? Roll call.
Babcock?
Aye.
Chapman?
Aye.
Eckert?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Morrison?
Aye.
Seifert?
Aye.
Surratt?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 15-825, bid award AHU replacement at education at ESC. Suggested motion, please.
I make a motion to award the contract for AHU replacement at Educational Service Center bid 16001 to Amber Mechanical Contractors, Inc. of Alsip, Illinois, for a total cost of $377,900 as presented.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Chapman?
Aye.
Eckert?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Morrison?
Aye.
Seifert?
Aye.
Surratt?
Aye.
Babcock?
Aye. Motion carries. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent calendar?
Well, yeah, one more.
Oh,
on the
I'm
bottom.
sorry.
That's the one we were going to table.
We're gonna
There
table
we
it?
go.
I'll make a motion to table approval of the Board of Education annual goals for our next meeting.
Second?
This was item 15-826.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion on that at all? Roll
Thank
call.
you.
Actually, I would just say that, so just to be clear, we're going to table it, but it's going to go up on the website.
Yes.
Yes,
And
For any public
there'll be
comment.
progress made on going
Correct.
forward with these goals.
absolutely.
So we have supported these goals. We are in support of them. Okay.
Okay.
Roll call. Eckert?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Morrison?
Aye.
Seifert?
Aye.
Surratt?
Aye.
Babcock?
Aye.
Chapman?
Motion carries. Consent calendar. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent calendar? May I have the suggested
Make a
motion?
motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second?
Roll call.
Khan?
Aye.
Morrison?
Aye.
Seifert?
Aye.
Turin,
Aye.
Babcock,
Aye.
Chapman,
Aye.
Bradford.
Aye.
Okay, correspondence, Dr. Thompson.
Yes, we had 9 requests for information under the Freedom of Information Act during the period of June 12th through August 5th. On May 28th, a request was received from the North American Procurement Council. The response to this request was sent on June 17th. On June 16th, the request was received from Lisa Black, Chicago Tribune, Schaumburg, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on June 29th. On June 22nd, a request was received from Vicki Wilson, Palatine, Illinois. Additionally, on June 29th, Ms. Wilson made a second request. The responses to both these requests were sent on June 29th. On June 29th, a request was received from Vicki Wilson, Palatine, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on June 30th. July 13th, the request was received from Lauren Scott, Center for Digital Education. The response to this request was sent on July 16th. July 13th, the request was received from James Bachman, Illinois Retired Teachers Association. The response to this request was sent on July 15th. On July 13th, a request was received from Kevin Green, Unvia. The response to this request was sent on July 16th, and on July 27th, a request was received from Charlene Roach, Smart Procure, Deerfield Beach, Florida. The response to this request was sent on July 30th, and we received one developer contribution from the Village of Palatine in the amount of $11,521.96.
Okay, before we adjourn, if the board members would stop by and see Mrs. Becker, we have a joint press release with regard to the DTU that was prepared by Mike Wizzy. So you will all have a copy of that, and for our press as well. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Any problem? Anyone want to not adjourn? We're done. Adjourned. Yes.